Tonight, priced out. Rising prices are putting a strain on families across the U.S. and right here in Tampa Bay.
10 Tampa Bay's Jamison Euler joins us with the impact to local businesses.
The Bay Area's rising rent issues have now trickled down to restaurants, leaving many of these small business owners struggling to keep up with skyrocketing prices per square foot and dwindling foot traffic. For some, the financial strain is forcing them to close their doors for good.
We can peek in.
In order for one door to open,
I don't have electric on it right now.
another unfortunately had to close for Benjamin Koya. For 15 years, he built his restaurant in Carrollwood.
It was great. It's a great location. Everything was good.
Until it wasn't. Inflation, rising food and labor costs, and like most restaurants across the country, foot traffic dropped. But the rent for his cheesesteak shop, Philly Flavor, that went in a whole different direction. Koya said the new rent price forced him to close up shop and start looking.
And said, we'll be back. We're going to go, we're going to see what we got to do. And thinking, okay, rents will calm down. We'll find a spot. Well, 6, 7, 8 months later, rents weren't calming down.
Not coming down for anyone.
The increase in our lease for us to stay here is more than double, and we just won't be able to exist at that cost.
Tom Bassano made that announcement last year to his Safety Harbor customers on Facebook. Bassano told me for 9 months, he and his wife Cindy thought their dream of making cheesecakes and running a cafe were in jeopardy. He told me the angst of a lengthy lease negotiation took its toll, but they were able to finally come to a new lease agreement and stay put.
Of course it's a concern.
Brad Barnes has been a restaurant consultant for decades. He even consulted Congress on the dire state of restaurants after COVID.
We know that food businesses are critical to keep business districts thriving. Yet, landlords tend to look at that as a situation where they can continue to press a food business that has way lower margins than the average retail store for higher and higher rents, damaging those folks enough to many times put them out of business.
A November 2024 survey showed independent restaurants' rental delinquencies reached their highest level all year, with 46% of restaurant owners unable to pay their rent. That was up 11% from a year earlier. Many cited rising operating costs. It's forced some, like Ben Koya,
But this is 24 feet.
to redirect their restaurant dreams
This is like a kitchen on wheels.
to a food truck operation like this space south of State Road 54 and Gun Highway. His overhead and rent a fraction of what it was. His old restaurant location,
That place is still sitting empty to this day, 2025.
Brad Barnes says coast to coast, landlords aren't incentivized to negotiate.
When real estate developers are able to write off these kinds of issues, empty space, they do a tax write-off just like any little business does, big business does. It's loss of revenue. And what does that do? That lowers tax revenues. By lowering tax revenues, what does that do? That makes the city or the state or the government ultimately ask us for it.
Barnes consults developers to put their tenants on a flexible rent scale based on gross sales.
It's got to change for the restaurants. I mean, will it? I don't know. Or they're just going to turn it into retail and say, all right, well, just leave the larger chains and that's what you got.
Data shows a successful food business in a community increases staying power for not only the stores around it, but for the community's economy. An economy that some are predicting will lead to decreased restaurant foot traffic in 2025. In the newsroom, I'm Jamison Euler.